My interest in this goes back almost 30 years. I did some work in 25 years ago. I wrote a first space strategy for the Air Force. And one of the key things in that was energy from space. But for a whole different reasons than most of us think about it. At the time, fossil fuels, that wasn't an issue. The problem was, how did you get energy to people who needed it in the field rapidly without having to carry very long logistics trains? That's one part of the interest. The second part of the interest is the fact that if we were to ever do this, we would have to revolutionize the way we get to space and the way we operate in space. Now, obviously, from National Security Space Office point of view, that's very much of interest to me, because one of my jobs is to try to figure out how to do that and how to provide national power in space. So from my viewpoint, this is kind of one of those situations that even if we can't get it going, which I would be very disappointed personally, I believe other countries in the world are going to get going. And we have had interest from several other countries, the Japanese, the Indians, the Chinese, and others who are talking about this technology. So one of the things from my viewpoint is understanding where the technology goes, what are the ramifications of that technology outgrowth, because as we've all seen in almost all the space technologies, they have other ramifications than what we expected when we started those. So from my viewpoint, and from an NSSO viewpoint, we're in a mode of trying to look at this and make sure we understand it. Now, we don't endorse it in the sense of, I'm not going to stand up and say the nation ought to make a decision right now. That's the nation's decision to make. That's something I'm hoping that a debate will come up this fall as part of the presidential campaigns, because to me, this is one of the fundamental issues that people have been talking about, is energy. And what are you going to do about it? Now, I don't know if many of you saw, but the day they had ex-Vice President Gore receiving the Nobel Peace Prize, there was a panel that talked about space-based solar power as part of that discussion that day. Very interesting panel, and I think it was interesting to see the reactions to it. Half the community poo-pooed it and said, well, way too far off, and the other half of the community said, let's go do it tomorrow. Well, I'm kind of in between, because I don't think it's way too far off, but I don't think we can do it tomorrow. So what we need to do is find some ways to find out, is this technology, first of all, doable? Can we close a business case? Now, that's the one thing that we tried to do last year in the study, was try to see if we could close business cases. You're going to hear later today, we didn't close a business case. Not now, not probably in the next 10 years or 15 years. But 20 or 30 years from now, maybe we do. And if you look back, and I know some of you who've been in this business for a while, in the energy business for a while, how long ago did we start fusion power? Anybody remember? 50. So let's see, that's been 50 years. Are we still putting money into fusion?
Sure are. Yes.
Are the French putting a lot of money into fusion?
Yes.
They sure are. So, programs that take a while, are something that we as a nation and other nations in the world are willing to stand up to, if there is a promise in the end. I think this is one of those absolute promises in the end that has the ramification as talked about from the point of view of energy, national energy. What would it do to the world if you had cheap energy? How would it be different? How would it be different if you could bring energy down from space and take carbon dioxide, and turn it into a fuel and have basically a zero carbon footprint? How would that change the world? How would that change all the things around us? Well, those are the kinds of things that I'm personally interested in, because those are the kinds of things that are going to affect the long-term future. And from a national security space point of view, I need to understand what those are, because I need to be able to predict and then say, okay, what are we going to do from a space point of view in that area? So, just want to put it in context. I think this is a big deal in the sense of it has real potential. Is it something that the government would commit to go do right now? No, of course not. It's way too big and it's way too complex. But is it something that we might do in conjunction with industry and other people, some of the energy companies and all? We've talked to some of them. I think this is a possibility. I think this is something that Department of Energy, NASA, EPA, and the military might say, hey, this is important enough. If we had a partner, that we would be willing to step into this one.